Lighting, here to teach us how to create artificial lighting effects. Our Photoshop maestro himself, Alex Lindsay from DV Garage. Welcome back.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Alex. Lighting, well, you know, when you look at a picture, in fact, we're lit here, and
right.
there's the front lighting, right?
Right.
The key light, the fill light, and then the highlight or whatever they call that from the back.
Exactly.
You do that in Photoshop
Yeah, and
too?
most of the time you think of it as using a 3D package. You know, use
yes,
a 3D package,
right.
and I'd add my lights and so on and so forth. But you can actually do some basic stuff within Photoshop, and once you start to do that, you can add all kinds of cool effects.
Now, a lot of Photoshop editing is 2D editing, and that's fine.
Right.
When is lighting useful?
Well, a lot of times you might want for a web page or an interface to have something that really looks 3D. Like maybe we want this call for help to look like it was cast out of iron, you know, that type of look. And
you're going to do that in the web, I know.
Yeah.
And buttons that jump out at you.
Exactly.
I always, whenever I put a picture in my blog, I always put a little drop shadow, because it just kind of brings it forward a little bit, makes it, I don't know.
Now that you might do it separately.
That's not lighting.
That's not.
But it's the same kind of 3D effect.
You want to make it look just more dimensional.
Right.
I mean, exactly.
Well, okay. Here's our call for help logo.
Okay,
what can we do to make this more dimensional?
The first step is we'll just see what the lighting effects actually do with
Where
this
are
flat
those?
photo.
I know.
It's what you do is you go into render.
You don't go to lighting effects under filter.
I was using it before we started the segment. So this is always the last filter that I used.
Got it.
And since I was playing with it right before, it's still up there. So it's just a convenient way to get back to it.
Oh, I see. Okay, that's important.
Yeah.
That's kind of handy. So whatever you've been using last will show up under the filter
It'll always
menu.
be at the top, and if you hit Command F or Control F if you're on a PC, it'll just bring that. It'll just reapply the same effect.
Interesting.
So that you can do things really fast.
So, but normally lighting is in the render menu.
Lighting is hidden over here. There's a lot of cool things that create images within this area. So we'll open up lighting effects, and what we'll get is this huge dialog box.
Oh boy.
Now, it looks complex, but it's really not that bad.
Okay.
What you have is you have a spotlight, and that's what we have here. So if I move this guy around, you can see how it's creating the feel
that's neat.
of a spotlight.
And you can change the dimensions and the shape of it as well.
Exactly. So I can see how wide it is and how deep. Now I can also set this up for a omnidirectional light. This is kind of like having a little.
Is that like a flashlight? What is
it would be like a flashlight. You know, just a single area that's sending out light in all directions.
Right. It's not quite so tight as a spotlight.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then I can also have a directional light, which would be like the sun. All the rays are going the same direction, which isn't very interesting.
No.
Well, it isn't very interesting with a flat area, but when we get further in, it might be something we want to play with. But we'll go back to this, and when we hit spotlight, we have.
I like that.
Yeah, the spotlight's fun. And
That's really fun.
You can also add lights. If you want to grab another one here, I can pull another one up here, and here's another little spotlight, so I can add.
So important to note that not only does it add light in one area, it kind of turns off the lights in the other area, dims areas.
It pretends it's like a plane, and it's being lit from all the different areas. So if it's not being lit, it kind of falls off into black.
It's dark. Okay.
Yeah.
So it could be both a lighting effect and a darkening effect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So now when we hit OK, there's our first look. Now
that's kind of neat. That's like it's hanging on the wall, and we've got little halogen lights pointing at it.
Exactly, and there's a lot of good uses for that by itself, but we want it to be more dimensional.
Okay.
So what we're going to do is we are going to start off with, we need to define areas that we want to have to be elevated. So we got to say, where do we want this to be high and where do we want it to be low?
We're trying to make this 2D image into a three-dimensional object.
And we're going to create what's called a bump map, which is a thing that will trick the computer into, well, the computer will create the illusion that there's 3D based on black and white values. So the white values will be very high and the black values will be low.
Okay.
So what we're going to do is the first step is we need to select, we want just the call for and the for and the black areas and the help to actually be higher than the background.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do is the first thing I'm going to do, and this is a great trick that you'll use a lot. We don't want this to be high up here. There's these little transparent areas.
Yeah.
So I'm going to hold down my Command key, and this would be Control on the PC, and I'm just going to click on the layer in the layer palette.
Command layer click selects the layer.
It just selects what's opaque in the layer, and so it basically excludes the other areas.
Okay. Quick way to select just the image.
The layer. Okay. Yeah. And now the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to hold down the Option key. This would be the Alt for a PC. And what this does is I have the magic wand. Now I said don't use the magic wand.
Yes, you did.
The last time, and now
it's going to work though because it's simple color.
It's one color.
Right.
And this is something that really works very well in.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do is hold down the Option key, and
that
what
selected
this does,
all the yellow.
And it also kept my other selections. So by holding the Option or Alt key down, it is subtracting from the selection I already made. So I selected the whole layer, and when I hold this down, it continues to subtract those areas away from that selection.
And you clicked both the blue and the inside the P because you couldn't get in there.
Exactly. It wouldn't have grabbed it.
Okay.
So now I
you have
this
all
area.
the color there.
So I have this selection, and what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go into my channels, so you can see my red, green, and blue channel, and I'm going to click this little button down here, which is to save the selection as a channel. So here we go, and what I've done is I've created a new channel from that selection. And if we look at it,
the famous alpha channel.
Famous alpha channel.
Okay.
So it saved my selection.
Right. Now this black part is what was selected.
No, the white part. Oh, the white part was what was selected. Remember, we were removing the black areas.
Oh, got it. Okay, the white part is selected.
So now we've isolated those upper areas.
This is the part you're going to raise.
Exactly. We want that to be higher. Now, if we go back and look at our alpha channels here, and let's just go ahead and try the lighting effects.
Okay.
And what I'm going to do is, now here's another little trick.
Yeah.
If I hold down the Command Option or Control Alt and hit F, it will reopen that filter. So it won't just apply it again, but it'll actually just reopen it, and I can change it. So it's like an editable.
Okay, so Control F would just do it.
Yeah,
or Command F would just do it. Control Alt F reopens it so you can change the settings.
Exactly. Same thing, but I want to do something different. So I have this, and what I'm going to do is this is a texture channel. And this is where I'm going to apply the bump map. So here's my alpha.
There's the alpha. Just that.
Right.
Okay.
Now you can see here that I can make this, it's very flat like it was before. As I bring it up, you can start to see some dimension. You can see some highlights. Exactly.
Flat or mountainous? Mountainous.
Exactly. Okay. So now we can see our mountains when we click here, which has got a little
depth I can see, but not a lot.
Now here's the problem, and a lot of people get lost when they use lighting effects this way, is that you need to have gray values. Black and white, in the way the computer creates this illusion, black and white are really pointing the same direction. Gray values start to point in different directions, and so if you don't have any grays, if it's pure black or white, it doesn't look like anything. The illusion doesn't really work.
Okay, well show me what that means, because I'm not sure.
Exactly. Watch what happens if I just add a little bit of a blur to this. So
that'll make it grayish, basically.
Exactly. So here I have, I've added a lot of gray. Yeah, it's a little too much there. We'll just make it really little.
A little blur.
So we have a little blur here.
So that makes it's not harsh black and white. There's a little middle gray. Okay.
Exactly.
Now let's try our bump map.
So now when I go back here, and I have to go back down here because I've used something else. Now if we look at it, and we'll hit OK.
Oh, you got some real depth now.
So now you've got a lot more depth. Now it doesn't look like it's cast yet.
Yeah.
But it's starting to move more towards the direction that we want. So what I'm going to do, and I'm going to kind of.
It's a neat effect, though. I mean, really, look at the difference between that and what we just did is amazing. Okay.
Yeah. And so that's the beginning. Yeah. Now, the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to very quickly. What I did is I selected all, Command A or Control A. And then I'm just going to hit copy. What I want to do is I want to move my alpha channel into my layers.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to go in here, and I am going to create a new layer and paste that layer into it.
Paste it in there. Okay.
The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate that layer.
Okay. Copy the layer. Got it.
And now I'm going to blur it even further.
Okay.
So now I'll turn it way up to something like 18.
Ooh, really fuzzy.
Right.
Lots of gray.
Now by itself, this wouldn't be very interesting to make everything be really round.
Yeah.
And we want it to look hard on the top.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this up to screen. So now I have, what screen does it lightens everything.
Okay.
So the things that were pure white are no longer, are still flat.
Right.
But it's created these little bevels here. The final thing that I'm going to do is I need to add a little bit of the grain, to get that kind of cast look. I hit Command Delete, and what that does is it just fills with the background color, or Control Delete. And I'm going to fill this with noise.
Just kind of speckly stuff.
Just speckly stuff. I'm going to screen this over it and reduce my opacity. It's very, very subtle. We don't need it to be, we don't want it to compete with everything, but we have just a little bit of grain.
Just a little speckle.
In that background. Okay, so now the next thing is I need to create a new alpha channel from just all of those layers. Now because they're all black and white, I can grab any one of these layers, and I'm just going to grab the blue one, the blue channel, and I made a new channel, new alpha channel down here. And I'll turn these off because I don't need them anymore. And when I do my lighting effects now,
it's going to do lighting on all of those layers?
I've compiled all those layers because I copied the blue channel into the bottom channel there.
Okay.
And when I go to blue copy, you can see it's changed a little bit there.
Even more mountainous.
I'll make it more mountainous, and there. So now you have.
And there's the grain showing up too. It really looks like it's painted metal.
So you have the grain here, and you have the soft areas here, and these
Yeah.
little bevels were created by that smaller
Right.
blur.
And as a graduate